All right, are you guys ready for our next speaker? So excited to introduce to you Kishana Palmer. Kishana is an international speaker, trainer, and coach with a 20-plus year background in fundraising, marketing, and talent management. Graduating from Bentley University with a BA in International Studies and a Master of Science in Information, Age Marketing, and Marketing Applications, she is the CEO of Kishana & Company, an organizational development firm dedicated to equity, social justice, and helping everyday leaders live and lead well. When she isn't teaching mid-senior to C-suite professionals, she creates new courses for growing teams or facilitating executive meetings. And she hosts a podcast called Let's Take This Offline. Please look at your screen.
People see me out in the world and they wonder, how do you do it all? I wear a lot of shoes. I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a founder, a life and wellness coach. My goal is to help you live well and lead well. I want you to have a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious experience. My mission, to help you live the life you love, have a career you love, and be healthy AF. Few can throw a dance party, drop knowledge, and change the trajectory of people's lives and careers for the better within 20 minutes to an hour. If what you want is a dynamo who speaks her mind, knows her stuff, inspires folks, and does it all with humor, great storytelling, and a tad bit of irreverence, then hello, I'm Kishana, and it's nice to meet you.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Kishana Palmer.
Come on, y'all gotta do a little shoulder bob. Thank you so much. And let me give my soror a
Hello,
squeeze.
beautiful woman. That's what I was just about to say.
My soror. All right, y'all. We're gonna spend some time together. Are you ready? I mean, if you're not ready, just get ready. I hope everybody has some water, some tea, some sambuca. I'm not gonna judge you if you have it in your cup. Kombucha, all of the things. Okay, friends, we are going to spend some time together today talking about harnessing your strengths. And so this is gonna be like part keynote, part workshop, part conversation, okay? And so if you've never hung out with me before, guess what, y'all? Your life is about to change today. Let me tell you why. We will never be in this place with this combination of beautiful, dynamic, accomplished, warm, giving women like you ever again. That makes it a special day, right? It makes it a life-changing moment today. And if you don't feel that if you don't feel a little tingle in your cheeks just yet, hold on, it's coming, okay? All right, now, so here's how we're gonna spend our time together. So I don't typically do Q&A at the end. I want you to feel comfortable speaking up throughout my time with you today. We have some friends who are gonna be running mics for us, and y'all, we have a hot seat today. Ooh, ooh. I'm putting a couple of you on the hot seat so we can solve how to be successful with your strengths. Okay, so thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I've recently rebranded my company to Management because we put a fresh take on management and leadership. And I have one of my team members, Mike Williams, here with me today, hanging out. And one thing we know for sure, each and every one of you are disrupting the industry you are representing today. I think we have academia today, we have consumer goods today, we have insurance today, we have finance today. What am I missing? Technology. How can I miss technology? A whole degree and I missed it. We have a varied amount of interest. We have entrepreneurs in the house today. And so if you're going to disrupt your industry, we want to make sure that we help you build a team that can manage that. And one of my favorite courses that I taught, I was talking about this last night, that I need to bring back again is managing people for people who don't like people. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to, but you know who you are. Okay, oh, hello. Okay, so The goal is that if you're going to be a leader, I want you to be a leader that you feel strong and you feel powerful and you show up powerfully in your leadership. And so I have been so fortunate to help thousands of leaders over the last 10 years build up their leadership acumen, management skills, build their teams, and have a good time while doing it. Because if you do not have fun at work, we probably should have a conversation at lunch. Fun is one of my company values. And so even though we take on complex change management consulting projects all the time, if we are not going to drop down and get our eagle on while we do it, the answer is no, we can't come work with you. Sorry. So I am a mother, a daughter, I'm a friend, a traveler. Y'all, I'm a lover of shoes and fashion. Oop, blame it on my daddy, though. We're going to talk about that, okay? He called me Imelda Marcos when I was 9 years old. But y'all, I didn't have a job. So how's a man going to accuse me of being a shoe lover when he's the one who has to go to get the shoes? I blame it on him to this day. A podcaster, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I read about 5 books a month. And I watch a lot of TV too, so basically what I'm saying is I'm a nerd. I'm cute though. And I'm Caribbean, I'm a first-generation American. I'm a professor at Baruch College in New York. I'm a believer, and listen, if you catch me singing, just pretend like you didn't hear it, but it is kind of good though. Like I have sang in a choir or two. But my most important job is as mama to my daughter, Sanai, who I finally call the Queenager, who is now a freshman at the Jackson State University in, Jackson, Mississippi. And what does a New York City girl do in Jackson, Mississippi? I don't know. But when she walked onto the campus, and any of y'all, who are my recent empty nesters in the house? I always have a few. Come on, be proud about it. Listen, some of y'all are like, not yet, still doing Uber driving and soccer. All right, still doing play dates. Y'all know you're jelly, okay? But I have been so proud of, sometimes when you're a caregiver, whether you're a mom, a godmom, an auntie, we don't stop for a second and go, damn, that was a good job. But when you are the shepherd of a human and your only goal and purpose is to lay foundation so that they can walk in their purpose in this life, and you do even a decent job of that, I need y'all to give yourself a little shoulder brush. And if you have a little one and they're coming on up, now you know that Kashana told you what your charge is, okay? So here's what we're going to do over our time together. So we are going to talk about our individual strengths, understand how our strengths propel our professional growth, and understand how to build community and network. And many of us have heard this word community over and over and over again, right? But I think community, like empowerment. What other words have we heard and kind of like overused? So there's community, there's empowerment. Give me a couple more that y'all are like, this buzzword has buzzed to death. Synergy. Tell me again. Synergy. Ooh, synergy has not been synergized. It's dead. What else? Huh? Oh, Lord, collaboration, except we're nicey to each other. We're not collaborating, are we? Okay, what else? Camaraderie. So y'all want us to rah-rah and sis kumbaya when I really don't want to have cocktails with you after work? Okay. So we're going to jump into what that really means. So let's talk about this journey of self-reflection and self-awareness. So when I was in junior high school, 7th grade social studies, Mr. Feldman, he had the nerve to call my mama. Now, y'all, I have a Jamaican mother who is working multiple jobs. I am the oldest of 4, a latchkey kid, a proud Gen Xer. Okay, I'm smart, and my butt's supposed to be home after school. Y'all know about it, right? Yep. Don't answer the door. And don't answer this phone unless I call 2 times, hang up, call again, and you better answer the phone, okay? This man had the nerve to call my mama at work to tell her she needed to come up to the school because he had to talk with her about my behavior. Y'all, I'm a straight A student. Did I mention I have Jamaican parents and I'm first generation? So my parents don't play that foolishness, you hear? Okay, so I wasn't acting up. So my mom takes a half a day off from work at the hospital, and she comes up to the school to meet with Mr. Feldman for him to tell her, Kashana talks too much. What do you mean? Kashana talks too much. She talks a lot in class, so my mom asks, is she disrupting the class? Well, no. Is she not doing her work? No, she gets straight A's. She's one of my brightest students. Is she disrupting others? No, she's actually quite helpful in the class. My mother told that man, if you ever call my job again because you don't understand classroom management. Y'all, I just sat there like this. But you know, on the inside, I was like, that's right, you better do it. Okay. So the very thing that I used to get calls home about, talking too much, is the very thing that has allowed me to live out a purpose on helping you live loudly in yours. Isn't that a thing? All right, so we're gonna talk about that. So you've got to be self-aware. How many of us have had this moment where we're like, oh, they do not understand themselves? Not you, y'all, because you know y'all are real in tune. It's the other person I'm talking about. You've been in a meeting with a manager, and you're like, do they hear themselves? No? And so in order to be able to step into self-reflection, you've got to actually understand how you're showing up in the world right now. How are others experiencing you right now? Many of us grew up where negative reinforcement is what propelled us to success. So you came home with 4 A's and 1 B. What did your mom and daddy talk about? I don't like them. And all you fixated on was, if I go in that house with this B, my parents are gonna kill me. And for those of y'all who had parents who didn't do that, bless you, you escaped that experience. But when negative reinforcement is the way you understand how to drive and how to win, what that means is that you start to work on your weaknesses, but you don't actually put that kind of time into your strengths. And so then the next thing I want us to be thinking about as I go on is self-reflection. Many of us are just busy, right? We're so busy, you're busy. How many of us have said that? Oh my gosh, I'm so, or you didn't get invited to a brunch because your friends thought you were. Oh, I forgot to invite you to this party because I didn't recommend you for this particular project because you're always so busy. Oftentimes is a covering for the fact that we don't want to slow down enough to deal with what's going on with ourselves right now. And so in order to be self-reflective and have that as a foundation, you've got to be willing to slow up. And for some of us, me included, y'all, it is terrifying to think about what you're going to have to think about if you have to slow down. So if you're at the beginning of your career, you might have your nose to the grindstone just trying to get to the next spot, but you're not enjoying what's happening right now. For those of us who are mid-career, we have been on a roll. You're trying to get to that spot, you're trying to get that promotion, you want to get to that new thing, you want to get that plum opportunity, that stretch opportunity. You probably have been crushing folks in your wake, because that is what we have been socialized and conditioned to do. Not a moment to really slow down and go, is this even what I want? And for those of us who are more seasoned in our careers, we have been doing the thing the way we've been doing that thing for so long that we're come to an inflection point where we're like, what's next? Is this really it? And so you come to a halt, and that's when you are looking back at those times in your life and you're reflecting and you're going, dang, I missed a whole lot of stuff. And so what I want us to do is start looking at this in a now perspective. I want us to start thinking about what does it mean to actually lead powerfully. So here's what I want you to do before we jump in. So if you grab your phones for me or your tablets, and I want you to go to slido.com. And if you could just punch up that code for me, 1496298. And then when y'all have it, just put your phone up so I know. Ooh, sorry, let me back out of the QR code view. And most of us have it? Okay, I see head nods. So slido.com, 1496298. Okay, can you bring the poll up for me, please? Okay, y'all, when you see the word leader, what feeling does it evoke? So I'm pulling together a Wordle. So what are the feelings that it provokes when you see the word leader? Okay, I'm looking, y'all. Aspirational, empowered, inspirational, Okay, compliance, whoop. Stress, ooh. Guidance, safety, oh. Relatable, experience, strong, success, power, senior, trustworthy, overused, respect, boss, confidence, influence, influential, a mentor, a model, direction, responsible, successful, ooh, hopeful, vulnerable, visionary, vision. I'm gonna wait for a couple of more words to come in, and then we're gonna end the poll. We have a couple more people typing. Isn't it cool? Yeah, I love this stuff. So these feel, except for one or two words, I'm like, fair, balanced, but these feel like power words, like my chest puffed out a little bit. I kind of stood up a little bit straighter. I said, oh, okay. How many of you all are feeling these words today? And listen, if your manager or your team's in the room, don't look left or right. Just look at me, okay? Look at me. And if you need help, wink twice, okay? How many of you all feel like any of these words today? Whether you are a leader by position and title or a leader by influence, how many of you all feel this way in your personal lives, in your social circles, not just at work? We tend to kind of zero in on work, and work is one part of the fullness of our lives. Okay, so we're gonna end the poll there. Thanks, my friends. So the reason I asked that question is because since many of us focus on our weaknesses and not our strengths, I'll give you a quick story. So when I was in my 20s, I was a brand new chief development officer for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was like, okay, I'm in this seat now, gotta raise a lot of money. And I'd already had a lot of success, right? I was like, ooh, I've raised, 30 million by then. I'm like, I'm doing right. So I go to this fundraising conference and all day sessions, and I was a little bit fatigued by all of the how-to. So I saw a session, and the title was, Finding Your Freak Within. Get your minds out the gutter, y'all, okay? I see your faces. So I went to this session because I'm curious what it's about, and it was all about what if the time you spent working on your weaknesses, you could spend it working on your strengths. And the professor who was running that session had us take, then called StrengthsFinder, now Clifton Strengths. So I'm 26, 27 years old. I take that test. I immediately get a promotion to another organization, move across the country that I'm gonna help take national. I have a young team. I myself am, still fresh in the world. And we have to raise a ridiculous amount of money. We come into this organization, it's into a banner year, so 10 years, and the organization had never raised more than $10,000 in any given event, ever. And the board charged me with raising $300,000. I just want y'all to do the math on the percentage between 10,000 and 300,000. And what do you think I said when they gave me that challenge? I did say sure, because I am what? A workaholic. Oh my gosh. So I go back to my team. None of us really have the experience to both do a complete marketing rebrand yet, and also raise this kind of money and do this massive event yet. But I remembered StrengthsFinder. So I took everybody's job descriptions, put them all to the side, had everybody take the assessment. I did everything in a little bit of a word map. I got to figure out where all of our strengths are. And then I had my entire team write out every single task we had to do for that entire fiscal year. And so then I used their strengths, and I just mapped. You do this, you do that. You're better at this, you're better at that. And then I said, don't tell anybody we're not using your job descriptions right now, because we have to raise this money. This is not funny. By the time we finished that event, so I started in June, the event was in January. How much money do you think we raised for that event that year? Over 300 for sure. Close. Yes, who said 700? Okay, after expenses, we raised $722,000 that year from a team who had not ever raised more than $10,000. It wasn't just my leadership, let's be clear, but it was the opportunity to live out our talents, our gifts, and our skills in our strengths. Many of us come into work and we use our skills, and so those are the things that you learn and then you probably monetize. Will we agree on that one? What we don't get to do as often is use our talents, and those are things that come naturally to us, and then we get to decide if we're gonna monetize them or not. And even fewer of us get to use our gifts, and those are things that we are born with, and then we get to decide if we monetize them or not. And so your strengths are actually in your gifting. Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all didn't catch that, it's okay. Your strengths help you leverage greater performance without overworking yourself. It helps you focus on the places where you've got to manage development. And I don't mean work on your weaknesses. I mean figure out who you get to align with and co-create with to reach and exceed your goals. It helps you to discover your purpose. How many of us feel like at one point or another we have asked ourselves, what is my purpose here? Yeah, I see some nods. Remember, I told y'all again, if you don't want to tell anybody, just give me a little wink. What if I told you that your purpose, hold on, let me stop. Because Allison said, you've got to make sure that you align with a company whose values you believe in, right? Okay, so that's focused out. Let's focus in for a second. What if I told you that your purpose is really just your values in action in this season of your life? That if you're clear on your personal values, as you activate them in this season, there lies your purpose. So for some of you, you might be at the beginning of your career. You've just flown the nest. You're living with your roommate. You're living la vida loca. You're out here. Your purpose might be different than those of us who might be sandwiched between caring for our children and caring for our parents. Your purpose might be different at a point where you're taking on more community responsibilities as well as work. And again, if you yourself are experiencing some dis-ease. And so if you think about your purpose as this moment, in this time, in this season, and how do I activate my values, what I believe in, then it releases you from this feeling of not knowing where my place is, because actually where you are planted is where you will grow. Y'all think you can follow me on that one? Okay, and your strengths help you do that, y'all. So what are some of the benefits of knowing your own strengths? Number one, you just feel fly every day, okay? Like if you know what it is you are good at, you just wake up in the morning feeling like golden, okay? I wish Jill Scott song would play, because I would tell you, that's what, you gotta get up, what's your fight song? Mine is Golden, right? You feel good about the way you show up in the world because you actually know, you are flat-footed in knowing how you rock this whole thing out. So if you're the kind of person that you see a spreadsheet and you are a freak in the spreadsheets, listen, y'all see how y'all did it again? If that's where your brain goes, if you can tell a story in data, if you can synthesize from the numbers, guess what, friend? You are a storyteller. Oh, some of us are verbal communicators. We can get up here and we can spin a tale, but ask me to type it. Others of us know how to organize chaos. Don't let the event be upside down and the speaker didn't show and the caterers didn't come and the bus broke down. You're like, here I come to save the, and then it's done like that. Who does that fit? I see some head nods. Okay. What about those that every time there's a challenge, someone is creeping to your office? I just want to talk to you for 5 minutes. You busy? And you're like, you didn't see me furiously. And then what do y'all say? No, it's okay. Come on in. Okay? What about those who come into the room and they say, well, somebody's got to be in charge here because I see that things are not in order, and so I guess it'll be me. Who's that? Be proud about it. Hello? Those are my commands. Okay, so I'm giving y'all sort of like my layman's terms of how your strengths show up naturally in what you do every day. All right, so your Clifton strengths live in 4 domains. So I think just about everybody took their assessments. So I love assessments, y'all. I am DISC certified. I've done all of the Enneagrams. Like, let me tell you what, put an assessment up here and I will break it down. I love this stuff. But what I understand is it's not just a fun exercise you did with Kashana one morning on a Friday at a conference. It is actually a way of telling the story about how you actually move and activate in the world. So time and time again, I've had clients who said, oh my gosh, Kashana, I took my assessment and I don't have any execution skills, so I don't know how to execute. Who felt that on the inside? Or those who were like, oh my gosh, I don't have any influencing skills, so I guess I don't influence people. Or even better yet, So nothing on relationship building? So are you the people who don't like people? And then what if you don't have any strategic thinking? Does that mean that you don't belong in a leadership seat because you don't know how to do strategy? Absolutely not. What if I told you that your strengths are really what motivates you to get to the end, to finish, to get it done? So my top 5 strengths are all in relationship and influencing. And so what that means for me is I really don't care about doing the thing because I really feel like the thing has to get done, but I am not going to let down Alicia. I'm not going to let down Kristen. I'm not going to walk in and have her holding the bag. Absolutely not. So I will stay up late, and I will work longer, and I will do something over the weekend because that relationship is really important to me. People are counting on me. So if relationship building is where the majority of your strengths live, you care to get to the end of a thing to preserve the relationships that you have built. If you have a lot of executing, you want to be finished to be finished. I just want you to know what's going to get you to the end is, you know what? Check the end. Be proud of that. I need you so desperately in my life because that's never going to be me. It doesn't mean that I can't execute. It means that that is not driving me to complete, to finish. So for those of you who have a lot of strategic thinking, what matters to you is that there is an overall picture. What direction are we walking in? And can I get folks on board with that? So I'll break that down a little bit more. Y'all follow me so far? Okay, I'm going to take a pause. Are there any questions, comments, curiosities before I move on? Okay. All right, so I think I had about, 80 or 90 of you take the assessment, and I got it last week. And so here's the breakdown by your theme. So this is your top 5. I'm going to walk to this side. So for your number 1 slot, 12% of you in this room had achiever as your number 1 strength. Achievers are like, so who was the last person that won? So what was the highest sales goal? So how long did it take the last person to get promoted? Your marker is the best of what came before you. It's not the best of yourself. It's like, I see the mark, that's the mark. You're the one who's beating the school records. You're the one who's lapping the block on how fast you get it done in the escape room. Okay? So my achievers see a mark, and then they best that mark. So 12.5 of you had that as number 1. In your number 2 slot, 8 and a little over a quarter of y'all had relator. Relators just mean like, I thrive on intimate relationships, which means that you are going to thrive in team environments that are very collegial. Notice I didn't say familial, because when something is familiar, that means that y'all don't have any kind of boundaries and it's a hot mess. Have y'all seen people's Thanksgivings? Some of us are dreading the next month and a half, okay? You're like, oh, you folks, love you. So you rely and you thrive in close relationships. And then about almost 7% of y'all as your number 3 strength has strategic. And that means there is always another way. It's always another way. That's all strategic means. Go ahead, talk to me.
You made me chuckle a little bit about achiever because when I took the exam or whatever,
Yeah.
and that came out as number 1 for me, I thought about, I'm always trying to accomplish in general, right?
Yes.
But started a new company, and they had a baseline for this particular program of enrollment of 50, and when I saw it, I said out loud in front of all of the exec team, 50? Why so low?
Ooh, okay, so I'm going to repeat that for folks who didn't hear that. Yes. I love it.
Like, okay, we've never achieved 50.
Never achieved 50 before, but you thought it was too low.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take, thanks for me, take the mic. Thanks, Joelle.
So the strategist in me, second highest, was like, there has to be a better way. There has to be a reason why. Again,
Miss
not
Cleo
knowing the
off the
backstory
strengths.
though, right? We got 124.
You better shut up.
Yeah.
You better go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Y'all better give her a
Yeah.
clap. Hello?
So just a little
So all
blink.
my achievers in the room who had that as their number 1, I think your cheeks just got warm. You found your people. I just want you to know. Okay. For those of y'all who are like, that is not motivating me, why does she always have to shoot for double? I just really. So we're going to talk about what happens when your strengths go into overdrive, right? When we get to our hot seat. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story. So then in the number 4 spot, communication as your number 1 strength. So this is going down the line of where y'all ranked on your number 1. Communication is not just about talking. It's about wrapping folks in an invitation to understand what it is you're trying to do. If you're the kind of person that people feel like, oh, she gets me, just from having a conversation, then communication is probably where you live, because it means that you use words to help folks connect and also to align. And that's really important, particularly in the environment we're living in right now. And then in the top 5, number 1 spot, discipline. These are my folks. Where's my retired service? Okay. So when I think about discipline, because y'all, I don't have it, okay? I just want you to know it's like number 32. Okay. These are my folks who have order in their lives and in the way they work. Would you say that if I came and looked at your desk, it would be organized right now? Clothes are color-coded and organized by occasion and size. See? And I'm not even trying to be funny, y'all. My folks who have that strength, number 1, in discipline, start the day with, how do I get creative? I can't get creative until there's order. And so I'm going to see this thing through, because order allows me to be able to make space for the unknown. And so think about that. So if you don't have discipline, never fear. It shows up somewhere else. So then let's go on to number 2, and then I'll move on. So in our number 2 spot, about 11% of y'all had individualization. What that means is you see the magic in every single person you engage in. You see the strength. You're the kind of person, and if you're a people leader, you're the kind of manager that can just reach into your team member and yank out the goodness. So you see the stretch project. You see what's happening when somebody needs to develop. You see who is ready to be able to take on that next thing. Does that sound familiar to any of y'all? Okay. And then I'll skip down to maximizer, because we went through it later. Y'all are on team do the most. Who has put up their holiday decorations already? Don't be embarrassed, okay? Okay. Who watched about 14 TikToks or Reels on other people's and then thought to themselves, I'm gonna do one better than that? Okay. Who did the most and then said, let me put one more bow on it? So if you're the kind of team leader, manager, team member, who you're like, but if we just add one more thing, I know it was perfect, but if we just did this one more thing, you are always squeezing opportunity out of the things that you're doing. You want to get all of the juice out of whatever you're working on. And guess what, y'all? It shows up in your personal life, too. So you're getting on somebody's nerves in your personal life. I just want you to know. Somebody. My child is always like, so we gonna do the most again, Mom? Okay. I have maximizer in mind. Okay, and then I'll go to harmony. Harmony, it functions a little bit in reverse. So you think people who are high in harmony want to have harmony. Yes, and you actually attract disorder all the time. People who are high in harmony are like, every time I walk into the room, these people are a mess. Why are the folks arguing and getting on my nerves? And then you seek to pull all the chaos back together, because your strength is in level setting when things are in discord. So you're a magnet for discord. And then you spend all your time being like, why do I have so much discord? Let me put it back together. You're cracking up. Is that you? Oh my gosh. Who else has that? Who else has harmony as in theirs? Ooh, I see everybody with harmony is making the funny face. Is it because it's true? Yes. You're like a moth to a flame, fueled by the fire. I want you to listen. Okay, and then my developers, and then I'll move on. Folks who are high in developer believe in incremental wins, which means you are the type of person that celebrates, at least we got through this first part of the project. At least we got through the day. At least this part of look, there are 5 bows on this one pole for the Christmas decorations. Win. Right? So you're the kind of manager who actually will help walk your team members along and encourage them, because small steps are still steps. You are the queens of one step. just one step, right? So when you have developer, that says you're the kind of person I want on my team because I have futuristic in my top 5. I'm always looking at the exit sign. I miss all of the stuff that happens in the middle. Somebody said to me the other day, oh my God, that's so exciting, Kashana, you got a book deal. And I was like, yeah, but it's not what a major. But on my second book, ma'am, did you not hear the first sentence? Did you not stop and say, woo, what a blessing? No, you just hurry into the end. Oh, okay. So people who have futuristic tend to see out there. You can always see the future. You know exactly what that win looks like. Oh, you're gonna triple the sales gains that you made this year, or you're gonna bring in more customers this year, or you see it. Do you see how? No. But you know that over there is happening. Who are my futuristic people in the house? Yes. Am I saying something that's true? Okay. Let's see if I can go through one more that I didn't do. Okay, let's talk about responsibility. Where are my oldest in family? Okay. Youngest in family. Middlers. Okay. Those of you who are oldest in family and have responsibility as one of your top 5, y'all were the guinea pigs of your parents' lives. Either you had 1,247 rules, or you just raised yourself. I mean, it's like either or, right? My middlers are like, what about me? All the time.
That's my favorite song.
Yes, come on, because you're a middler. And your responsibility is for balance. You're the one who's probably the pleaser of your siblings. You're the one who's always trying to restore things in your life. And if you have responsibility, the probability is high. You also have restoration in yours. And then if you're the baby of the family, your responsibility is to yourself. Now, it doesn't mean you're selfish. It means that your older siblings took all the heat, and now you just get to live, okay? Risk. Hello, risk. But you have a responsibility oftentimes to either hold up your family's name or to live very differently than what your family has done, particularly if you come out of a very hard upbringing. So how that shows up at work is that you either are the one who wants to be in the front, yes, I want to be the poster child for, or you're the one who doesn't want to be seen, but you're going to do everything differently. First you learn the rules, then you break them. Okay? Y'all still with me? Okay, so I'm going to pause here before I go on. Does anybody have a strength I didn't talk about that you want me to talk about before I get the hot seat? Okay, we're going to go over here. Tell me your name, friend. We're coming to you with a mic. Mm-hmm. Joel's behind you.
Why, thank you. Delicia Cooney.
Hi, Delicia.
Hello. So my second strength is not on there, and it's focus.
Okay, so my friends who are focused, y'all think it means that she has a one-track mind? No. Thank you. No. It actually means when I put my mind to something, that I will get others to focus on it too. So you're the one in a meeting, when we have an agenda, first of all, you're like, where is the meeting agenda? Thing 1. Thing 2, you're probably the timekeeper somewhere in your life. Thing 3, if people are off track, you're like, hi, I just like to bring us back to center. Any of my other focus in the house? Does that sound like you too? I just like to bring us back to center. That's you too as well? Mm-hmm. You just want order. So you see how focus is actually really more about order in order of operation and less about being zoned in. It doesn't mean that you can't be, but it's more about that. Y'all see how I'm kind of walking through your strengths and how they sort of show up? Because everywhere you go, there you are. So they're showing up in different parts of your life. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that one. Where are the mics? Okay, we'll do here, and then I'll come over here to you. And just tell me your name.
Tanisha Poole,
Hi, Tanisha.
intellection.
Intellection. Okay, if I were to get into a conversation about the meaning of life with you, how would you react? Would you want to jump right on in with me? We're just one-on-one. We're by ourselves. One-on-one. Yeah. Right. But do you, when you're by yourself, often ponder the same conversation that you would have if you was just you and I? Are you thinking about all the ways that things can go left and right and up and down, and you're breaking it down? Have you ever been accused of being an overthinker? Yeah. My folks who are strong in intellection always ask 10 extra questions. The reason why you want that person on your team is because if you're somebody like me who's futuristic, what did I say I do, y'all? I see the end. I want the outcomes. I don't care about the steps, okay? My folks who are strong in intellection see all the steps. You say exit, you go. So about the 12 things that need to be true to get to exit, and they come to your mind like this. So you want somebody who's strong in intellection on your team because their ability to rapidly synthesize information and show you places where you need to be more resourced or questions that you need to be answering shows up like the Debbie Downer, but it really isn't. It's the person that's revealing to you places where you can really shore up in your thinking so that you can tighten up your action plan so that if you're like me and want to get to the end, then you can get into the HOV lane and get to goal. So that's wicked good. I love it. That feels like you too? Okay. Now, give me one more and then we're going to, okay, go ahead. Wait, you have the mic. Okay, got you. Tell me your name.
I'm Yasmina Lapsi. My number one strength came back as restorative, and I can't seem to figure out how to actually use that as a strength instead of it always pulling me back.
So people who have restorative alongside people who have harmony, did you have harmony in your top 10?
No.
Just restorative, okay. People who have restorative, like people who have some sort of harmony, they are also in that sort of like influencing theme, right? So your job is really to help folks figure out how they get back to center. So it's not necessarily about just establishing order or calmness, it's about helping others to do that. And so when you're looking at people, that's how it works. When you're looking at things, projects or tasks you're working on, et cetera, you're always trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I make this simpler for this person, that person, and this person when I see that there's places where there can be disruption. So oftentimes, folks who have that, have restored with something else, they tend to work together. So it's one of those like supporting strengths that work along with something else. What's the strength you have above it? That's your number one.
Mm-hmm.
What's your number two?
Individualization.
Aha, okay. The reason those two work together, so remember y'all, I told you individualization is I see the magic in everyone. So if someone else is coming off course, because you see the magic in everyone, you know how to pull things back into alignment. And people feel seen, not penalized. So you're probably one of the best people to offer constructive criticism or feedback or get into that feedback loop because folks who are dealing with you in that realm will feel cared for and they'll feel activated to get that done. So that's how those two work together. Y'all still with me? Okay, y'all want to do one more? Individualization with restorative. Okay, go ahead. Can you push past the mic to her? Okay, and then we'll come over here.
I think it was
Hi,
me.
my name is Maria Woolcock, and my first strength was consistency.
Oh, I love that. I want to tell y'all that I am very consistent. I am. But if I woke up in the morning and goes, you know what I'm going to do? The same thing that I did yesterday. The answer would be no. So you thrive in creating routines. So if I'm working alongside you, I'm coming to you for standard operating procedures. You already know what needs to be done. You're like, I hear that. Also, let's get this together because you want the flow to be consistent so that people have space to be successful. You're not just the person that your family can rely on, but you're also the person who exemplifies to others what it looks like to be of good character. People who are high in consistency are the kind of managers that folks really tend to look up to because you carry yourself in a particular posture that is not changing. And so on the upside, when you're in your flow, listen, you are bringing the team along. But when your consistency has tipped over, then you're the kind of manager that feels immovable. You're not flexible. So you'll know that your strength is doing the most when you're not having the same result that you would have had if it were balanced. Think about your strengths like the 300 in Sparta. Your top 5 are your front line of defense. Your 6 through 10 are the specialist teams, and then there's everybody else. You know, those are the ones who are like, ah, from the hills, but you never see their faces in the movies. That's them. And so your strengths move up and move back like a dance as you move through different phases of your life. And so in my top 5, I have strategic, I have futuristic, individualization, relator, and none of those really kind of worked during the pandemic. My achiever steps forward, like, here, rock, okay? My maximizer stepped forward. My communication stepped forward. So things that I use sometimes, but I wouldn't have said, like, these are the folks that run my show, started running my show. So if you are looking at your top 5, and if you did your test, you did your assessment, and you took it over from years before, first of all, don't ever take it again, okay? I'm just telling you right now. You are the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, unless you had some kind of cataclysmic life event or change when you took your assessment, then I would say take it again. But if you don't have that at the time you take it, I'm one of the practitioners who will tell you, don't take it again. I haven't taken mine since I was 26. I'm 44. So, and I really think that and I've taken everything else, y'all, but guess what? It all reads the same, so I don't need to take it again. Okay, so.
Pardon me.
Here I am.
I know you said one more.
Nope, give it to me.
However, I just want to lean on the shield just a little bit.
Hey.
My 5th strength was includer.
Ah. Hey.
And it's confusing to me.
No, who else has includer? Okay. Everybody needs to come along. You're the person who typically is like, but did we get Kathy in on it? But did we get the opinion of? Did we make sure we heard the voice of? Did we make sure that we included? Literally. And the reason that that is beautiful is because you're always going to have what I would consider to be the comprehensive voice. People are not going to feel missed because you pause to go, did we make sure that Kishana was involved? That's when it's working well. When it doesn't work well, you get caught up in a lot of red tape. It slows the process down because you want to make sure that 17 people got their eyes on it twice. So includer tends to work well with other execution themes because then it at least keeps you moving forward. But includer typically means, have I ensured that every voice is heard? And have we made sure that people are literally included in the thing I'm doing to move forward? So it's really about relationship building.
You. I
Sound
think
good?
that fits in with my big mama syndrome that I
Yes.
have.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm going to add that to the lexicon. It's Big Mama. That's right. Okay. Is Kendra in the house? Kendra Johnson? Come on, Kendra. Up to the front. All right, y'all. So we have a hot seat. So I haven't looked at Kendra's top 5. She's going to share them with us, and then we're going to do a little bit of a breakdown. Y'all ready? Go get them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is anybody thinking about their top 5 going, it just didn't feel like me? Yes? Okay, tell me what didn't feel like you, and tell me your name.
Patty.
Hi, Patty.
Hi. So my top one was Harmony.
Harmony, okay,
And
restoring.
I was like, "That doesn't feel like me."
Why didn't it feel like you? Did you think it to mean like you are a harmonious person?
It's been a minute since I looked at it.
It's okay.
But I think when I read like the strengths, I was like,
What's your number 2?
communication.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
Okay.
So folks who have communication and harmony together typically are the folks that are going to ensure that I'm clear. Let me just make sure I'm clear. Just so we're clear. Anybody find themselves saying that? Just so we're clear?
That's me.
All right then. In that combination, harmony is what I would call level set. Right? So you are the person people look to go, is that right? You're like, hold on. Let's just make sure we're doing what we say we're going to do. So that's how those two things work together. Y'all see how y'all strengths play together? Okay, that makes more sense? Okay. All right. So Kendra, you're at Coca-Cola.
I am.
What's your role at Coca-Cola?
I am, what is my role? I'm in global talent and development, and I work on talent innovation and careers. So a lot of careers and development work, some performance management work, and for our global company.
So you're dealing with people all day long.
All day long.
Y'all got that? Okay. So Kendra deals with people all day long, and you're the people that like people.
Love people.
There you go. She wouldn't tell us if she was the people that didn't like people, though, you know. Blink if you need help. You know how to.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk through your top 5.
Okay. I got strategic as my number 1,
There's always Uncle
which
Brett.
is great because I'm in a strategy role. Individualization is my number 2. Number 3 was achiever. Number 4 was relator. And number 5, ideation.
Okay. So when you have strategic as your number 1, I mentioned there's always another way. So when you start to bring your 5 together and you have ideation as your last one?
Yes.
Okay, so you use relationships to start to brainstorm. So you're the kind of person that you do well if they're like, let's just whiteboard this entire exercise and kind of figure out what we're thinking. Let's spitball some stuff. I want to talk to you because you're the person who's like idea after idea after idea. And because you have strategic as your number 1, there is always another way. When those two things are working in concert, when you have Kendra on your project, that means that you are going to rapidly ideate, you're going to move your project plans along pretty quickly, and you're going to be able to get to some outcomes right away. The challenge where I wonder if you feel like, shake a fist sometimes, is because Kendra ideates very, very quickly, but others may not. You might feel sometimes like people are holding you back. If they would just come along, why can't you hurry up?
Oh, goodness.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then it's compounded by the fact that, let me just little guesstimate, where you are in your career, you might be butting up against some more seasoned professionals who don't do things in that way. That's not the way they were raised professionally. Y'all see how that could be a rub? So now what we're dealing with is huge strengths, right? The person on your team who is fast on their feet, who can iterate really quickly, who can see an obstacle and go, that's not really a brick wall, it's like a putty wall, and can get around it, who believes in relationships, so she knows exactly that she's gonna call on Brittany, and Brittany's gonna be like, oh yeah. Kendra builds social capital really quickly. People can rely on you. Doesn't she have the face that you feel like you can trust? She's just so warm, beautiful smile, beautiful gowns, right?
Oh, thank you. I think
When you have your strengths come together like that, that is the making of a powerhouse. If I were a manager on further up the totem pole on her team or another team, I'm grabbing her for a stretch project because not only will she work quickly, but she learns quickly and she sees how to get around obstacles. And where she gets stuck, where you're gonna need that sort of mentorship and you're gonna need that kind of like redirection is, if your heartbeat is going real fast, that means your strengths are doing the most. Ooh, ooh. If you start feeling that rush, okay. Doesn't matter what your strengths are, y'all. That means your strengths have said, hello, welcome. And so for you in your career, you're gonna always want to seek out folks who ask lots of questions, intellection. You're gonna always wanna seek out folks who are like, hey, hold on, let's get some more input. You're gonna always wanna seek some folks who are like, how do we talk this through? Y'all notice how I didn't say to Kendra that she needs to get those skills herself? No, because in her top 5 is the desire and the ability to create and to grow and to sustain relationships. So she doesn't have a problem doing that because that is literally how she shows up in the world. What do you think?
that was spot on. And I was just talking to my colleague about all of my strengths were not in influencing. That's the top area that I think is really challenging. My role is strategic, so I have to influence. I just stepped into this role. And so I have all these ideas in me, but controlling, like, when should I hold it back? When should I say it? When should I refrain from, like, overpowering the conversation, and who in the room has the influence to drive it? So I'm learning that, and totally spot on. I'm like, I feel it when people are not coming on the journey with me, but who in the room can make them come on the journey?
Yep.
And how can I influence them is my biggest challenge at the moment.
But it's also your biggest gift because you actually already have the tools to do it. Mm-hmm. Because when you have Relator in your skill set, when you have ideation in your skill set, there's always going to be someone who wants to get in there with you. And so the key thing that you said was, who is in the room? And so folks who have more of the like strategic and you feel like you don't have influence, but relationship building, and all of us, I would say, are in the business of relationships, right? Regardless of what we do in the room. When you have relationship as your driver, that means you're always looking for ways to influence and be influenced. And so what gets you to the end are those relationships. So I would say it's not a challenge for you. I want you to just shift your thinking around the opportunity for you. Sound good?
Love that.
Let's give Kendra a round of applause. Y'all want to do one more? All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. Okay, what questions are bubbling up before we move on to the next person? Because I could talk y'all to death. Okay, I'm going to come over here and then I'll come over to you. We have a mic over here.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I actually have learner as my first one, and actually most of mine are all in strategic thinking with one restorative. So I thought that was really interesting because I work here at Coca-Cola in marketing, and I was surprised I didn't have more influencing or kind of relationship focus, so I was curious what you have to say about learner. I have learner, restorative, input, futuristic, and intellection.
How many podcasts do you listen to a week?
A lot.
Y'all got the answer?
A lot.
Right? Okay. Tell me what your other ones are again.
Learner, restorative, input, futuristic, and intellection.
So the gift is that you actually have what you think you don't have. When you have input and learner together, learners are always looking for more information. There's always more. And you have like a happiness to it. You're delighted. You're like, ooh, another ebook. Ooh, another article. Another blog post. What? Another lecture? So you are the person I want on my research team because I know that you are going to get it fast, and probably before I finish my sentence, you can cite me 3 places. So you are my cheat code to getting things done, okay?
Right.
And when you have input, like intellection, you're gonna want to be in the mix. So are you in a generalist role or a specialist role?
I'm in a specialist role right now. I lead experimentation for marketing in North America.
So in a specialist role, those of y'all who have specialists in your role and you feel like a specialist, it means you get your energy from focusing on one thing. And if you don't finish your one thing, you're stressed. Those of us who typically are generalists in our spirit, we're just nosy. We like to have our hands in everything. It doesn't really matter if we lead it, or in the middle of it, or we finish it up. Were we in the building? So when you think about your role in relation to your strengths, you actually have the kind of strategy role and relationship building role that your level of focus actually requires. And so you actually, if you stepped out, I want you to start sharing quick things with your team that you read or saw. What's the breakdown? You're the person who goes to the conference that I want to come back and say, here's what I learned, y'all. Here's our top 3 things, the end. Because that kind of relationship building actually influences others to get curious about what's happening in your work. So to me, you're right where you're supposed to be based on the strengths that you have. One more question before we move on. Can we come, since you spoke right, I'm going to get one more person. Okay. Hi there.
Hey, Stacia Chambers. Thanks so much for being with us today. So I broke the rules and I had taken it back in 2019, and then I took it again in prep for this conference. So just curious, when you said like they should stay the same unless you've gone through like some big life events, like what does that exactly mean? Like, I don't know if I qualify for that because only 2 of my top 5 stayed the same. So I don't know, just curious on that.
So did you take it like when you were a teenager or in your like early?
No, I'm 36.
Okay.
So
I love that. You see
I
the baby
feel like
face? I love it.
mid-20s, late early career, and now
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say
yeah.
I'm like mid-career. I don't know exactly.
So oftentimes, I thank you for sharing this. So oftentimes I think of a major shift like I moved to a major city. There was a dis-ease in my body that I went through. There was a death in my family. There was a marriage. There was a baby. Like there's typically like the same life events that your insurance company wants to know that you did. Typically, those are the same. And so if something like that happens, oftentimes your strengths will shift. Typically, they just shift around in your top 10. They don't move all the way off together. So who are my folks in the room who have woo? Wait a minute. I am so jealous. Y'all should be jealous. You know why? Because woos stand for win others over. I can't stand y'all and I love y'all at the same time. Okay, woos are the people who you want on your team because if there's an objection to be had, if the negotiations are getting down to the minute, put a woo in the room. And they'll come back like, light work. So I love that. Okay, so let's see who. Let me tell you who I have next, y'all, and then we're going to move on in our slides. 28 minutes. Okay, so can I have Mary Elizabeth Emmy Sad? Come on up. I'm going to hand this to you. All right. Okay, so I have not looked at her strengths just yet or her career, so we're going to sit down and chit-chat and let's see if I can break it down.
Okay.
Okay.
So career, I work in executive search. and I have for 27 years, and before that, sales and marketing. Number one is positivity, which you have not talked about.
Okay.
Number two is competition. 3 is activator, futuristic, and then input.
Okay. Tell me your first one again.
Positivity.
Positivity. So it's ironic that you are in a career where literally you have to be like smiling through the phone.
My face hurts at the end of the day.
You pick up the phone, hello. Your fingers probably hurt from being happy.
Yeah.
But the thing that is wonderful about positivity is that it doesn't matter how many lumps you get. You're like, it'll be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. How many of us say everything's gonna be fine, but you don't really feel that way? Okay, people who have the strength in positivity actually do. Actually do, okay? You have activator, right? Okay, so you are the person that gets the party started, socially and at work, okay? So you're the one that I want if I'm jumping off a new initiative. You're the one that I want if I'm going into a new territory. You're the one that I want if we're starting something that we haven't done before, because people want to get behind you because you know how to jump off that starting block. And you can synthesize, have a plan, a quick one, and then you're like, let's go. We'll figure out the rest when we get down there.
Yep.
Yep?
Yep.
And so in your career, first sales and marketing and then going to executive search, it's really all about inviting people into a new opportunity. And so in order to invite somebody in, they've got to feel like they are invited to the party. So you kind of need those types of skills because you also got to move quickly.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You are data driven, it is time bound.
Yep.
You have to be able to figure out your numbers and get to them quickly, and you can't leave me with the feeling that I was a transaction.
Right, right.
You're the person, Mary Elizabeth is the kind of executive recruiter that you feel like it's your best friend, sort of like the realtor. You're like, this is my best friend, until after they close, and then 2 weeks later, you're like, where is she?
I stay in touch.
You stay in touch. So tell me, places where you felt like really challenged in your career as you think through your strengths.
Well, I'm futuristic as well.
Yes, so you see out there. Okay.
I absolutely see out there, and that with positivity, I feel like I'm not always prepared for what can go wrong. So I've learned to surround myself with somebody that's more of a deliberator. Otherwise, I'm really caught off guard because I was positive it was going to end just like I pictured it.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I suffer from the same illness. I just want you to know. I'm kidding. But it's true. And so that's an example, y'all, of when your strengths, and you hear me say this, have tipped. And so I want y'all to think about that like a cup or a container that's full of something, and then when it tips over, it doesn't tip over and spill all the way out, but it sloshes, right? And so when your strengths are tipping that way over, oftentimes that'll be your blind spot. The place where you're like, oh, darn, we were moving really fast, so I missed that step. Dang it.
Exactly.
Kind of like people who try to put together IKEA furniture and forget to put on 3 of the screws, and then you're like, why is this thing lopsided?
That's why I don't do it.
So you have to get with the people who want to see those meticulous steps. Okay, so where are the places that you feel like any one of your 5 strengths has really shined for you? It was the thing that made you I'm on top.
I think, I don't know which one in particular, but I'm definitely an encourager, and I often find myself sharing things with people because they come to me, and I don't even remember what I said, but years later they'll say that meant so much, and it's some level of encouraging or bringing something out in you that you didn't know or see, and then people tell me later, I'm like, it wasn't for me, God gave it to me for you, so I don't even remember.
That's right. So y'all, I just want you to hear in Mary Elizabeth and then to see in yourself that the way your strengths tend to show up are in ways that have such deep impact that if we move away from, I got to get better at, that's a skill mentality, and think more at, I want to unveil, release, open up to, that's more gifting, more talent, that you actually will improve your skills because you're actually living out in the places that you are naturally strong in. Thank you so much for coming in for that. Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Y'all okay? All right. Okay, y'all, we have about 20 minutes left, and so I want to make sure, let me answer any questions we have before I move on. Okay, I want to go to you, and then we're good.
Hi, my name is Sabrina.
Hi, Sabrina.
I was just wondering, do you feel like your strengths are your strengths, or do you feel like sometimes people have a certain set of strengths in their personal life and a certain set of strengths in their professional life?
So in the way that I hear that question, in your professional life, I would believe that you're leaning on your skills. Everywhere you go, there you are. So typically, if I asked your mom, or if I asked siblings or your cousins how you do a particular thing when you're stressed, around the holidays, when you're happy, you probably express it. It might look a little different, but you probably express it similarly to how you would at work. Maybe at work you might feel like you have more restraint in a particular thing or another, but maybe you actually don't. And so I think that your strengths, they're just who you are, right? And so how you activate them and which ones that you actually end up leaning on more might change at home or at work, but I don't think that you use a whole different set. So if the questions were different and you inserted at home, I don't think that you would answer much differently. I think you would answer pretty close to what you do already. Is that good? Okay, I think we have one more. Okay, over here. Thank you. At the front table.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Jennifer Harris.
Hi, Jennifer.
Quick question. So I have 2 in my top 5 that seem counterintuitive when you read the description. I have command as first and then significance. But when you read them, they look polar opposite.
Yeah, okay. So I'll start with significance. So folks who have significance, if I were to read your journal, there'd be something about when you leave this earth, what would I be known for? What did I do that actually has meaning in my family, in my community, at work? What does my tombstone say? I'm not trying to be morbid, y'all. Literally, people who are high in significance, they struggle when they're not doing things that have real purpose. And when it tips, you just want to be seen, okay? So let me tell you, it could tip real bad, okay? But you get your satisfaction, you get your fix from command. And so those two things level out because command, you're literally the person who is like, things are not correct, I will step forward. And so when you step forward and get a hold of things, people trust you because they know you have got it in hand and you don't do things without purpose. And so folks, you sort of engender trust, right? Because folks are like, not only do they know that if it's in Jennifer's hands, it's gonna get done, but also she wouldn't put her hands in it if it was flim-flam. Where it tips over is you may not want anybody else to take the lead because you believe that you're the only person who can get it done. That's where the martyritis comes in, okay? Woo-oo. Did I do a little bit? Just a little bit. Anybody else feel like that? You're like, nobody else can get this done but me, okay? Yikes. So that's where you have to have that balance. And so when you feel yourself having that internal conversation, nobody can do it but me, then you'll go, oh, huh, y'all are coming to the front now? Back up. Because then your strengths are starting to get into the position to take over. And that's a good way to kind of check, are they out of balance? And as a manager, that's going to be something that's really, really important for you so that your team doesn't experience you in that way. But when they do, they'll go, oh, okay, hold on. What are we doing that's not really significant right now? What kind of details are we mired in? Okay, who's not actually taking responsibility for what they need to do because Jennifer had to step to the front to get it done. So those two things work in concert, particularly when you're working with teams. That make sense?
No, that makes total sense, yeah.
All right, okay, y'all, so keep the questions coming, but I'm gonna move on. Because I could talk about this all day, y'all see this, right? But you're probably saying, okay, Kishana, this all sounds good and great. I feel warm, I feel fuzzy. What do I do on Monday? So one of the things I want y'all to think about is how do we harness our strengths for career momentum? And so oftentimes we get to these different places in our career where, at least for me, I felt like I was in the HOV lane and then all of a sudden I was pulled over to the shoulder. And so then I cut across 5 lanes again and then I was back over to the shoulder. Every time I thought that I was getting my engine going and I had gotten, I got my tune up, I got my oil changed, I'm ready to go. Life lifed. And so I'm pulled over to the side again. And so for some of us, getting that momentum and keeping it at different points of our life is really, really tough. And so what I want y'all to be thinking about is, how are you using your strengths to set your career goals? Regardless of where you are in your career. If you're looking to exit because you have had a very storied career, how are you using your strengths to set up the kind of exit that allows somebody else to walk powerfully in your steps behind you? How are you leveraging your strengths to make space and give yourself runway for the next thing? So these are the kind of questions I want y'all to be kind of ruminating on, because these are the questions that allow you to start to say, how do I look at myself differently? And then what are the strategies we should pursue in doing that? As opposed to figuring out which book I read, which podcast I listened to, this is the way this guru did it, this famous woman did it this way. What works for me? And if you go back to my very first slide about self-reflection, you got to know yourself in order to be able to ask yourself that question. So that's that dance that I want to encourage y'all to do. Okay, and then lastly, how do you design your to-dos to amplify your strengths? So where are my friends who live and die by a to-do list? Sticky notes? Don't be ashamed, okay? Listen, there's sticky notes in my bag right now, okay? I just want y'all to know. The way you organize yourself actually is really reflective of your strengths. And so somebody like me who has strategic as number one, I have a digital to-do list and I have a paper to-do list. I want you to know I also have a recorded to-do list. Alexa also reminds me to do many things every single day. Clearly, I have a challenge, okay? But the way that I have set up my life around how to get things done is in alignment to how my strengths actually work. So because I have Activator, I got to get stuff done every day. So I put at the top, if I don't get anything else done today, I did this thing, I feel successful. My inner voice is like, you're not successful. That's okay. Different session. So how are you thinking about how you design your to-dos? And I don't just mean like what's on your task list. I mean like what's on your life list. How are you thinking about your strengths as it relates to your health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your financial health, your community health? That's your 5-star wellness. How are you leveraging your strengths to make sure that you have created a plan for yourself in those areas so that you are actually well? Because we all think about wellness as like, yeah, we got to get out there and do our steps, right? Or self-care, let's go to the spa. No. How do you actually think about building a life that supports the goals and ambitions that you have? So there's some women that I walk through, but I'm going to skip through the slide because I want to get to the UGA folks. Hold on. Okay. So I looked up some alums and their strengths, and I figured we kind of break this down a little bit. So Maria Taylor, ESPN host and analyst. And so when you look at Maria in action, there's a lot of vitality, there's a lot of quickness, there's a lot of communication. I bet that if I did her assessment right now, I'd see activator, I'd see communication, I'd see command, and I'd see woo. I bet money on it. When you look at Mary Frances Early, am I saying everybody's name right? I was making sure. When you have someone who is an educator and civil rights activist, your strengths can show up any kind of way. But I bet that there is discipline in there. I bet that there's some woo in there. I would bet that there's empathy in there. And so when you think about the kind of career you choose for yourself, and you think about your career path, I want you to be thinking about, am I designing this next leg of my career as it aligns to the things I'm already good at? Because these women, so far, have. And I bet you if I spent some time, and I will at lunch, talking with you, you have too. Maybe you just don't recognize it yet, or you haven't given yourself credit for it yet. But the reality is, you have everything you need right now in this room, in your hands, to live so powerfully because you are designed in a way that is unique to you and is designed to set you up for success. So I thought that was really interesting. So now, remember at the beginning I talked about community and I said, okay, we talk about community, but what is community? So the other day I realized, oh my God, I think I don't have a really big community per se. I have a lot of followers. I was looking on social media. Community is that engagement, that interaction, that back and forth, that repartee that you have with each other, even if it's not with me. It's not the, ooh, I like what you do and I admire you, right? And so when you think about building a community, who is in your personal kitchen cabinet? And you'll hear me talk about your personal a lot because if you have a strong foundation in your personal life, it is a much bouncy or buoyant jump-off point for your professional life. It's also the place that if you take a moment to slow down enough to infuse some life into it, to give it some TLC, you'll find your return on investment in yourself, you 10x it immediately. Many of us ignore ourselves because we think we just want to focus on the career part, the professional part, and you're falling apart. And then people are having nervous breakdowns. They're not coming, they quit, they don't come back, they're switching career fields. Now you want to make candles in the woods. Nothing wrong with making candles in the woods, okay? I just want to say that for the record. Somebody somewhere is making millions of dollars making candles in the woods. But if you don't focus on yourself, then how do you get to that? And so how do you build support systems that work for you and that grow with you, that don't feel transactional? Where are you the center of one, and then where are you a cog in the wheel of one? Because it allows your strengths to move from place to place and exercise it differently when you're in the center of one and then when you are the cog of one. So those are some of the things I think about. So for me, building support systems, and so I have my family, I have a huge Jamaican family. I mean, it's ridiculous. I grew up in a family that he who talks the loudest wins, okay? 14 uncles and aunts, 30-something cousins, all the things. But when I think about a support system, those are the folks that are in my favorites in my phone. So when my phone is on Do Not Disturb, who are the people who don't have to call twice to get through? So who are those people in your phone? And then when you think about it from your social connections, who are those folks who, when you need to step out and get some vibrancy back into your life, you need a little pep in your step, who are those folks that you build into that? Gallup did a survey recently, and they keep doing the survey every year, and the numbers really don't change. I think more than like 60-something% of folks, if they don't have a friend at work, will probably quit. A best friend at work. But I came into work at a time where you were not there to make friends. Just do your work. So there's a rub right now with like, oh, so you want me to work on my strengths, Kishana, and not my weaknesses? Now you want me to make friends too? But guess what? For my people managers, 70% of the success of your team depends on you. So you have written the job description. You have worked with your HR business partner. They have gone ahead and posted the position. You have interviewed 1,245 candidates in 6 rounds and an exercise and an all-day thing in person. You've made the onboarding plan, and they've started. You did all of this, and their success still relies on you? I quit. I quit. And so being able to leverage your strengths to increase the engagement on your team is a critical component of being able to have the kind of support systems you need. So you as a manager need to make sure that you have a peer system of folks that you can lean on to go, let me just bounce this idea by you. And if you don't have it, I need us to pause, reflect, and say, Kishana said, my one to do before the year is over, I need to call a friend. I need you to phone a friend. I need a friend to the left and the right, so that you start to have that peer networking group. So building support systems are really, really important. It's like the nitro in your backpack if you have a support system. If you think that you can go alone, sure, okay. Is it gonna be any fun though? Meh. Except for the people who are like, I don't like people, it's definitely fun for you. But for many of us, it's not that. But we've been conditioned to believe we don't need that, right? And so I want y'all to think about the teams that you're on now, and maybe at lunch or later today or in your drive home, put a note to yourself. How can you work with others, and whose strengths actually complement yours? Because if you start to look at it a little bit differently, you're like, oh, the person I really should be talking to when I'm stuck is this person. The person who I really should bounce ideas off of is this person. The person who I really should ask to support me is this person. Because y'all are yin and yang, you work together. It takes on community, collaboration, collegiality in a whole different way. And for many of us, women are supposed to be like, we're the ones who go along to get along. We all just want to be friends and be nice. How many had the be nice growing up? Just be nice, be a good girl, be kind. I'm not telling my kid none of that, okay? Be a good human is about as far as I'm gonna go right now, okay? Don't embarrass me in the street. All of these niceties do not allow us to create genuine relationships. I'll give you one quick example. So years and years ago, I heard a speaker say, and this is about like sort of racial dynamics at work, that when black women want to be close and build relationships, either personal or at work, with other women, they tell you the truth. Your hair's out of, that's a mess. You got a wedgie. You know that spreadsheet wasn't right. Girl, let me stay with you with this presentation because I want you to be successful, so they tell you the truth. When, typically, because not everybody, when white women want to come closer and build relationships with other women, we lie just a little bit. Oh my God, your kids are fine. Badass kids. Badass kids. You look great in that dress. Girl, there's a sausage over there. Why are you lying to her? You know? Oh my gosh, it's totally okay. Nobody is going to remember this presentation. Yes, the hell they will. It's recorded. And so the rub, and I learned this early in my career, is I'm telling you the truth to build community, to build a collegiality, to collaborate, to get, y'all see what I'm saying? You lying just a little. So I tell you the truth and you're like, ew. Rude. And you lie to me and I'm like, ew. Rude. And so when we think about our lived experiences, it gets in the way sometimes of us doing the very thing we know we need to do to succeed. And so I use that as a little example because I wouldn't have paid attention to that before, but as soon as I heard it, I said, holy gazzoli. I do that every day. Now I done told her the truth and then she cut me off and she told people I was mean at work. So, as we're thinking about collaboration and your strengths, I want you to think about action and accountability. In order to be able to thrive in your strengths, I gave you that little tidbit because you want to be able to align with people who can hold you accountable. To me, accountability means I see you and I want you to be successful for the thing you said you wanted to do. A lot of us, particularly as managers, use accountability as punitive. And so our team members shrink away from it. So you lean out of your strengths and you lean into something else because you don't want to be caught. You feel naked. Why are you looking at me? Why are you asking about my work? But accountability allows you to activate and it allows you to go, oh, there are folks who actually really want me to win. It may not always feel like it, y'all. But if you start to look at it through that lens, then you'll start to leverage your strength to look at it through that lens. All right, so I love this quote by Michelle Obama, forever First Lady. Success isn't about how much money you make, it's about the difference you make in people's lives. So when I first started my career, I started investment banking. I soon realized that nobody would ever see my fly clothes doing these. It's true, y'all, I really did quit because of that. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I was like, I'm gonna be in this cubicle forever and nobody's gonna see these clothes. I quit. Went back, got my master's, and then I decided to start raising money. This is very confusing. So I have a line sister who's like an executive sponsor for a big financial company. She went to investment bank, and I did too. Why did I get off that train to go raise money for nonprofit? I don't know. But I raised over $100 million for organizations, and not just the big dogs, small organizations as well. And so your talent and your gifting, alongside the skills that I learned in undergrad and B school, allowed me to be able to transition into a career where I got to still have a lot of impact, right? But one of the things that I did early on was I chased the money. I kept going to organizations where they'd pay me more and pay me more and pay me more. I didn't care about the mission that much. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, okay? Those years are behind me. Now I've been washed. I'm a new person. But then when I started to realize that the difference I was making in a sector where if you're a professional fundraiser, in particular a professional fundraiser of color, you leave in 5 years or less and you don't come back. So I have managed over 70 people over the course of my career at different organizations, and all but 3 are still in the social sector and in executive positions. So what that said to me was, when you start to understand your purpose, your values in action in every season, things start to align and they start to show up. So when you start to use your strengths, my ability to build and sustain healthy relationships and my desire to be close to you, to know you, then it really helps folks to start to spread their wings and to really fly. I know that's like a little hokey, but it's true. And so I want y'all to think about, how do I use my strengths to make a difference in the folks around me and their lives. Not just this cute little assessment Kish talked about one Friday in a room full of beautiful women and supporters. But how do we leverage the things that we are gifted in and gifted with to change the trajectory of our careers and our lives? So my team at management talks about this every day. We focus on compassionate coaching, strategic consulting, I don't call it trainings because we're not dogs, facilitated learning experiences, and restorative retreats. Why? Because if you are not well, if your gut's not right, if your mind's not right, if your spirit is disturbed, if you sit in the parking lot going, oh my God, I only got to come in 2 days a week, but why do I have to come in? If you got to think about it before you turn on the Zoom because you don't know who you're going to cuss out today, you might need a little compassionate coaching. But we believe in restoration as a way to grow healthily in teams. And as I look at each and every one of your faces at places where I saw you nodding to yourself, you either had a duh, Kashana moment or uh-huh. So that's two sides of the coin, y'all, duh and uh-huh. There's an opportunity for you to live powerfully because guess what, y'all already doing it. So I want to make sure that I stay connected to y'all. Invite us in. I'd love to be able to have a lunch and learn with any of y'all to talk to you about how you actually can activate this with your teams to leverage this for success because y'all, don't just set it and forget it. This is not crackpot love, okay? And if you are, who are my podcasters again, my podcast listeners? Okay, so if you look for Let's Take This Offline, I renamed it to Management Made Easy. So you can find them in both ways. Basically, y'all, this is the thing for when you're on your Peloton, you're running outside, you're walking the dog, you have that long commute. Y'all, I just moved here September 1st from New York. Why does it take 45 minutes to go 6 miles? I only live 12 minutes from the airport and I don't have to get on the highway and I still have to be at the airport to get on my flight 2.5 hours before the flight. I missed the subway. And I'm a Queens girl, okay? So I actually drove a lot, but Lord. But to be able to just kind of sink in, if you're like Kashana, the thing I need to start with before I think about anything else is where am I right now in my life? I'm inviting you to listen to Grow Where You're Watered. It's a special 4-part series that I have on my podcast that talks you through my 5-star wellness. That is your physical health, your emotional health, your financial health, your community health, psychological, spiritual health, and bringing that stuff together. And many of us ignore it until it's too late. And so this is my love letter to you on why I had to stop ignoring it. Because guess what, y'all? I'm up here in these cute heels, but I have severe arthritis in my spine at 44. And I've had it since I was 21. And it wasn't until the 3rd time I collapsed when I was leaning over to pack my bags to go to Costa Rica. And I couldn't get up for a week. That I said, we got to turn this whole thing around. And believe it or not, I use my strengths to be able to do it. All right, y'all, we are at time. I want to thank y'all so much for hanging out with me, for your questions, for your attentiveness. I know some of my folks who are activators wanted to look at their phones so desperately. As we go into lunch, I'll be here with y'all, and so I want to make sure that y'all have time to ask me lots of questions and just kind of give me your story and your thoughts. And I appreciate y'all so much. This has been a joy.